My name is Benjamin. Today's video is on types of phrases in English, improving your English grammar. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Click on the bell icon as well so that whenever new videos are uploaded on this channel, you will receive instant notification. Let's dive into the lesson right away. First, we'll look at the highlights. What is a phrase? Characteristics of a phrase. Types of phrases with examples. What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words used as a single part of speech. It is a group of words that expresses an idea and is used as a unit within a sentence. Of course, a phrase expresses some meaning, even though it doesn't express a complete meaning as a sentence would do. Now, let's look at some examples. He is the man who was involved in an accident. Now, look at this first sentence. He is the man who was involved in an accident. We have some phrases within this sentence. 3 phrases to be specific, and you can see them clearly underlined here. The first one is the man. The second was involved. The third in an accident. You see? Now, the man is a noun phrase. Was involved is a verb phrase. In an accident is a prepositional phrase. All right? Then we have the second sentence. He has been receiving treatment in this hospital since last week. Again, we have 3 phrases here. Has been receiving is a verb phrase. In this hospital is a prepositional phrase. And last week is a noun phrase. All right? So you can see the analysis here. The man, a noun phrase, was involved, verb phrase, in an accident, prepositional phrase, has been receiving, verb phrase, in this hospital, prepositional phrase, last week, noun phrase. All right? And you know that last week, even though it's structurally a noun phrase, is functionally an adverbial phrase as well, because it can provide answer to the question when. When, since when has he been receiving treatment in this hospital? Last week. So it's an adverbial phrase of time. Structurally, it's a noun phrase because it's made up of a determiner and a noun. All right, so now let's go further in examining characteristics of a phrase. Let's look at those things that make a phrase a phrase. Now, first and foremost, a phrase does not contain a subject, a finite verb, or both. All right? We always define a sentence as a group of words that contains a finite verb and expresses a complete thought or conveys complete meaning. Now, a phrase is a fragment. It does not contain a complete meaning, and it cannot stand on its own. So you can see it cannot stand on its own. Like when we say the man, the man has some meaning but does not express complete meaning. A lot of questions need to be asked. Which man are you talking about? What did the man do? Or what are you telling us about the man? So a phrase is a fragment, is a unit that expresses a concept within a sentence but cannot convey complete meaning unless it is used, together with other elements of the sentence. So it often appears as a fragment. We have said that it may contain no part of a verb at all. For example, in the stadium. Now look at the phrase in the stadium. This is a prepositional phrase. Under the bed, prepositional phrase, and so on. It is meaningful but does not make complete sense. This we have already said. Now it functions, all right, let's move this up, all right. It functions as a single part of speech. For example, the President of America is a noun phrase and it performs exactly the same function as the noun equivalent Joe Biden. If we are talking of Joe Biden, we can use the phrase the American president. And Joe Biden is a proper noun. And then the President of America is a noun phrase. All right. So a phrase is a group of words that is used as a single part of speech. All right. It constitutes a unit within the sentence structure and it expresses an idea. All right. So then it gives additional information in a sentence. Of course, its name is usually determined by the main verb, that's the head word. For instance, the phrase a man of the people is a noun phrase because the word man is a noun. The phrase will come, of course, when you talk of a man of the people, the key word here is man. A man of the people. All the others are, telling us more about the man. A man of the people. And when we say a man, which man? A man of the people. All right? The phrase will come is a verbal phrase because the head word come is a verb. All right? So will is an auxiliary verb which, is functioning as a helping verb to the main verb come, and both of them constitute a verb phrase. All right? So that is exactly what we need to look at. Now let's move on to look at the types of phrases. All right? Types of phrases. We can classify phrases either functionally or structurally. That is according to the job they do in sentences. If we classify them functionally, we'll be talking about noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, or adverbial phrase. Now, if we classify phrases according to the way in which they are formed, we can talk of prepositional phrase, participial phrase, gerund, and infinitive phrases. All right, but we are going to look at the main functional types of phrases, talking about the noun phrase, verbal phrase, adjectival phrase, adverbial phrase, and prepositional phrase. Of course, we added prepositional phrase because it's one of the key phrases, all right, that gives us the structure that functions either as an adjectival phrase or an adverbial phrase. So we have classified it along with others here. So we are going to look at 5 types of phrases, and we are going to look at copious examples. All right. Now, we begin with the noun phrase. All right. Now, a noun phrase is a group of words that perform the function of a noun in a sentence. A noun functions either as a subject, an object, a complement, or the object of a preposition. Let's look at these examples. Okay, let's try to move this up. That tall black man is the principal. So we have 2 different phrases here. That tall black man. is the first noun phrase here, and then the principal is another noun phrase. Now, that tall black man here is functioning as the subject. All right, is the subject. All right, let's use a different. So, is functioning here as the subject, while this one is functioning as what? The complement. All right, this is functioning as the complement. Then Obi kicked the ball. The ball here is functioning as objects. All right, into the net. The net here is also functioning as object, but object of the preposition into. This is object of the verb kicked, while this is the object of the preposition into. So we are now looking at the functions of the noun phrase within the sentence structure. Now let's look at the next example. I heard a voice like the sound of many waters. I heard a voice. Now, a voice here is functioning as the object of the verb heard. I heard a voice like the sound of many waters. You know, the sound of many waters. Now, we look at the sound here is another noun phrase, and many waters, another noun phrase. Many waters, you know, functions as objects of the preposition of, and again we find the sound also functioning as an object, all right, in this sentence. Okay, so let's look at while some people live in abject poverty, others live in affluence. Now, the noun phrases here are some people. Okay, let me actually wipe this. All right. Now, some people, that's a noun phrase here. Abject poverty is another noun phrase. All right. Now, the rat is a noun phrase functioning as the subject in this sentence. The rat ran into the deep hole. The deep hole is the object of the preposition into. All right, so this gives us insight into what noun phrases are and the kind of work they do in English sentences. So let's move on, and now we look at the verbal phrase. A verb phrase, or a verbal phrase if you like, it consists of a main verb and other elements known as auxiliary verbs. The head of a verb phrase is the verb, the word class used for talking about actions, events, and states. Let's look at examples of the verb phrase. Jane was sleeping when we entered the room. You know, was sleeping is the verb phrase here, was sleeping. And the auxiliary was is an auxiliary verb here, while sleeping is the main verb. All right, that's the main verb here, MV. So the auxiliary verb, or the auxiliary verb, or if you like, the helping verb plus the main verb constitutes the verb phrase. Second sentence, Mark has worked in the bank for 2 years. Has worked is another, verb phrase. Auxiliary verb is has, main verb is worked. It has been raining since morning. Has been raining is the verb phrase here. Has and been are auxiliary verbs. Raining is the main verb. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone out with him. Had known is the first verb phrase. Wouldn't have gone is the second verb phrase in this sentence. Next, we are going to start the meeting at 10. Are going to start is the verb phrase here, all right? So you can see really examples of the verb phrase, and each verb phrase functions like a verb and plays the key role of expressing an action or a state in a sentence. Then let's look at an adjective phrase, which is a group of words that does the work of an adjective in a sentence. You know, structurally, an adjective phrase is a group of words in which an adjective is the head word. However, functionally, you know, a number of other structures are recognized as adjective phrases because they similarly function as an adjective in an English sentence. Now, let's look at the various structures that can form an adjective phrase. Number one, a group of words with an adjective as the head word. For example, here we have Chinede is a very intelligent boy. You can see a very intelligent. You see, A is an indefinite article, is a modifier. Very is an adverb of degree, and intelligent is an adjective. So all these constitute an adjective phrase, and together they give us additional information about boy. If we say Chinede is a boy, then and we ask what kind of boy is he? He's a very intelligent boy. So an adjective phrase like an adjective always answers the question which one or what kind or what type. All right. Sentence the car was seriously damaged. You know, seriously damaged is the adjective phrase here. Here you have a past participle functioning as an adjective, you know, and so seriously is an adverb that is modifying damaged, you know. So together they constitute an adjective phrase. The car was seriously damaged, and here the adjective phrase here is functioning as a complement. So here we have the car functioning as the subject, then was functions as the verb, and then this one functions as the complement. So we have a sentence that has the SVC structure, the noun phrase here functioning as the subject, and the verb here is the verb occupying its position as the verb, and seriously damaged is functioning as the complement. So you can see that another function of the adjective phrase is complement. All right, and here is the complement of the subject. The subject is a noun phrase, so the adjective phrase is an exact description of the subject. You know, when we say what was seriously damaged, the car. So seriously damaged is describing the car, and the work of the adjective and the adjective phrase is always to describe, to tell us more about someone or about something. All right, so let's go ahead to see other types of adjective phrases and how they function in English sentences. Now, the next grammatical structure that can function as an adjective phrase is a prepositional phrase. For example, the man with a staff is the village head. So here, with a staff is the prepositional phrase, with a staff. That's the prepositional phrase we have here. And whenever you find a prepositional phrase, you discover that it has the structure P plus NP is either P plus N or P plus NP. P is a preposition, with is a preposition. NP is a noun phrase, a staff is a noun phrase. Well, so when you put a preposition together with a noun phrase, you have a prepositional phrase. So that's what we have as PP, prepositional phrase. All right. So, and here with a staff is telling us more about the man. If we remove with a staff and we say the man is the village head, and someone asks which man, maybe you have a group of men and you are talking about one of them, and you say the man is the village head, and someone who doesn't know the man you are talking about asks you which one of them, and you say the man with a staff. With a staff here identifies the particular man we are talking about. So it's functioning as an adjective here. It's an adjectival phrase, even though structurally it is a prepositional phrase. Functionally, it is an adjectival phrase. Then the second one, the car near the wall is mine. Again, you see near the wall is the prepositional phrase that is working or doing the job of an adjectival phrase here. Again, when we remove this and we say the car is mine, of course, when there are a number of cars parked in a place and you are saying one of them is mine, and someone asks which of them is yours, and then to define it, you say the one near the wall, the car near the wall. So near the wall is a prepositional phrase, but is functioning as an adjectival phrase in this sentence. Then the next form of an adjectival phrase is an adjective followed by a prepositional phrase. For example, God blesses people who are pure in heart. So you can see pure in heart. You know, first this is an adjective, you know, followed by an adjectival phrase. In heart is an adjectival phrase. You'll find this in some biblical quotations. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, you know, in the King James Version. So pure in heart, you know, is an adjectival phrase here. That's another structure that can function as an adjectival phrase. You know, God blesses people. And when you ask which kind of people does God bless, you know, the pure in heart, you know, people who are pure in heart, all right? Then the kingdom of God, the kingdom belongs to the poor in spirit. Again, this is another example of the kind of structure, you know, an adjective followed by a prepositional phrase. Let's look at the next structure that can function as an adjectival phrase, and that is a group of words containing a participle, you know. Now, let's look at example. The girl standing at the gate. Standing at the gate is, you know, a group of words containing a participle. Standing is a present participle, and it is combined with other words to form what constitutes an adjectival phrase here. How do we know it's an adjectival phrase? We know it's an adjectival phrase because it's telling us more about a noun or a noun phrase, the girl. And if we say the girl is the principal's daughter, and there are other girls within the premises, and someone asks which girl are you talking about, to be specific, then the speaker says the one standing at the gate. So standing at the gate is functioning as an adjectival phrase here. Let's look at another example. The person knocking at the door of your heart is Christ. Now, here we have knocking at the door of your heart. This is a group of words containing a participle. The participle here is knocking. A participle is a form of a verb that functions as an adjective. And here we have the present participle. We have two types of participles: present participles and past participle. The present participle of knock is knocking. The past participle is knocked. So the person knocking at the door of your heart is Christ. Now, if we say the person is Christ and someone asks, which person are you talking about? The one knocking at the door of your heart. All right? Then number 4, a phrase containing an infinitive. All right? An infinitive begins with the preposition to. So here you can see we have no work to do. Now, this to do is the phrase that contains an infinitive. And how do we know it's functioning as an adjective phrase? Now, if we say we have no work, then which work are you talking about? The work to do. We have no work to do. All right, so to do here is functioning as an adjective phrase. All right, so that's exactly, these are examples of grammatical structures that function as adjectival phrases in English sentences. Now let's move on. Let's look at the adverbial phrase. Of course, an adverbial phrase is a group of words that does the work of an adverb in a sentence. This means that an adverbial phrase modifies a verb, because that's what an adverb does. An adverb modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, and that's also what an adverbial phrase does. Now, an adverbial phrase provides answer to the question when, where, why, how, to what extent, and then we have a number of structures that can form an adverbial phrase, just as we looked at different types of structures that can form an adjective phrase. We also have different types of grammatical structures functioning as an adverbial phrase in English sentences. The first one is a group of words with an adverb as the head word. For example, the driver was very seriously injured. Now, the group of words very seriously is the adverbial phrase here, because you have two adverbs. This very is an adverb of degree, all right? Also modifying another adverb of degree, and so this adverbial phrase is telling us more about injured. Injured is an adjective, is a past participle functioning as an adjective, and here the adverbial phrase is modifying the word injured, telling us more about it. If we say the driver was injured and we remove very seriously, then someone may ask the question, to what extent? And somebody will say very seriously. All right? So because this is an adverb of degree, adverbial phrase of degree, it tells us to what extent. All right? So now the second example, it rained very heavily last night. Now, very heavily now is an adverbial phrase and is modifying the verb rained. If we say it rained last night, then somebody may ask, how did it rain? Very heavily, or to what extent did it rain? Very heavily. So that is describing the verb rained. Okay? Now, a noun phrase can also function as an adverbial phrase, and let's look at it. I will travel to Enugu next week. So next week is an adverbial phrase, even though structurally it's a noun phrase here. It's an adverbial phrase because it answers the question when. If I say I will travel to Enugu, somebody asks me when, and I say next week, this is an adverbial phrase of time. The second one, Okon arrived from London last night. This is a similar thing. Okon arrived from London when? Last night. Adverbial phrase of time, even though structurally is a noun phrase. Now the third one is a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverbial phrase. And again here we look at the first example. The boy ran into the house. So into the house is an adverbial phrase. If we say the boy ran and someone asked where, then you can say into the house. So it's an adverbial phrase of place. The thief hid behind the wall. The thief hid behind the wall. Where did the thief hide? Behind the wall. An adverbial phrase of place. It's telling us where the thief hid. Alright? So let's look at the next example. Two nouns joined by and, e.g., it rained cats and dogs. Now this is idiomatic in nature. It rained cats and dogs. Cats and dogs constitute an adverbial phrase here because it is describing the rain, the degree. If we say it rained and someone says to what extent did it rain, we can say it rained cats and dogs, which means it rained very heavily. So that is an adverbial phrase of degree. Now the second example, Okonkwo worked heart and soul in order to succeed. That is earnestly. You can see that heart and soul, there are two nouns joined by and they have some idiomatic meaning here. To work heart and soul is to work earnestly, passionately, right? So seriously, if you like. Okonkwo worked heart and soul in order to succeed. So that's an adverbial phrase. Then the next one, two adjectives joined by and. The robbers beat the man blue and black. Alright, let's see the exact words quite clearly here. So blue and black is also the adverbial phrase here, and it has some idiomatic coloring here, but the meaning is mercilessly. The robbers beat the man mercilessly. So blue and black is structurally what one could call two adjectives. All right, but here the actual function of this compound adjective is the adverbial phrase, because they are telling us more about the beating. Now the next example, the boy won the contest fair and square. That is by fair means. That also is an adverbial phrase because it's telling us, describing how the boy won. So if we say the boy won the contest and someone says how, then we need an adverbial phrase of manner, fair and square. That is by fair means, honestly. All right, so that's exactly what it is. Then lastly, let's look at the prepositional phrase. Structurally, a prepositional phrase is made up of a preposition and its object, which can be a noun, a pronoun, or a noun phrase. E.g., on the table to her by Shoyinka, under the bed with an umbrella at 7 o'clock, etc. Functionally, a prepositional phrase can be used either as an adjectival phrase or as an adverbial phrase. Now, you must have noticed that when we discussed adjectival phrases, we saw prepositional phrases functioning as adjectival phrases, and again when we discussed adverbial phrases, we saw prepositional phrases functioning as adverbial phrases as well. So let's look at the different grammatical structures that can function as the prepositional phrase. Now, and of course, the kind of functions the prepositional phrase can perform. Now, let's look at the first one as a noun phrase modifier. Now, the men of this village often beat their wives. The men of this village. Now, the prepositional phrase here is of this village. It's telling us more about men. The men often beat their wives, and if we ask which men, then of this village tells us the men we are specifically talking about. So that modifies the noun phrase the man. Then the next one, the girl with an umbrella is Balogun's daughter. Now if we say the girl is Balogun's daughter, then someone will ask us which girl are we talking about, and we say the girl with an umbrella. So with an umbrella is a prepositional phrase, but here is a noun phrase modifier, which means is functioning is an adjective phrase, because it is only an adjective phrase that can modify a noun or a noun phrase. Okay, so we shall move on, all right, to see other prepositional phrases and their functions in English sentences. Now, the next one is a prepositional phrase functioning as a verb complement. Now, for example, give the letter to the manager. Now, you can see to the manager is a prepositional phrase here, to the manager. All right, to the manager. Now, is functioning as a verb complement because it's telling us about give. Give the letter. To whom. It actually completes the meaning of give, because the action will not be complete if we simply say give the letter. The question is to whom, all right? So it's a verb complement. Then the second one, I totally believe in God. Now, in God is a prepositional phrase and is functioning here as a verb complement. Again, it complements the verb believe. If I say I totally believe and you ask me in whom, I say in God. It's either believe what or believe in who or in what. So something has to complete the meaning of the verb here, and that's what we mean by the verb complement. Now, the next one, as an adjective complement. Again, we can see that a prepositional phrase can also function as an adjective complement. For example, the old woman was worried about her sick son. So, about her sick son is a prepositional phrase. And how do we know it's an adjective complement? The word worried is a past participle functioning as an adjective here. So let's use the border principle and put a full stop here. If we say the old woman was worried, a question will naturally arise. And obviously the question is about what? About her son. So this completes the meaning of the adjective worried. Worried about what? Worried about who? All right? So it's the complement of the adjective worried. And usually a complement completes the meaning of something. All right? Or describes something if you like. Now, the second one, Doris is busy with her assignment. Doris is busy with her assignment. Okay. Now again we look at the prepositional phrase here. Let's get it right. Is with her assignment. Let's again use the border principle and let's try to put full stop after busy. Let's say Doris is busy. You will naturally raise a question. Busy with what? Busy doing what? Alright? So the word busy is an adjective, and then we need a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverbial phrase to actually complete the meaning of busy, and that is what this prepositional phrase is doing here. Doris is busy with what? With her assignment. So it's an adjective complement here. Alright, so now we can also find a prepositional phrase functioning as an adjunct. Now let's look at it here. Now we always sing at the assembly. Alright, an adjunct is a word or a group of words that tells us more about a verb. Alright, and here we look at it. We always sing at the assembly. So if we look at the adjunct here, is at the assembly. So that is a prepositional phrase functioning as an adjunct. Of course, you know that if we have to analyze this sentence, we here is the subject, then always is an adjunct, sing is a verb, at the assembly is another adjunct. Alright, that's another adjunct. So you can see that this is an adjunct, and it is an adjunct of place. Again, let's use the border principle, and if we say, you know, we always sing, and somewhere says when, where, how, you know, we always sing in the morning, where, at the assembly. All right, so an adjunct is something that, you know, gives extra information about a verb. All right, so let's look at the next sentence. The dog ran into the house. You know, so here again we find an adjunct. Ran, the adjunct into the house is a prepositional phrase and is telling us more about ran. If we say the dog ran and put full stop, then the question arises where? Into the house. All right, so that's what an adjunct does. An adjunct is an adverbial or an adverbial phrase that adds meaning to a verb. Now let's look at a conjunct. On the contrary, women are very compassionate. All right, on the contrary, women are very compassionate. So a conjunct actually tells us you know, something about an additional idea. All right, that's exactly what a conjunct does. Something must have been said about women, and then, or about some other people, then to contrast the idea we say, on the contrary, women are very compassionate. Then the next one, in view of this, we shall meet immediately to discuss the next line. So these are conjuncts. Then we look at disjuncts. In all seriousness, we must hear from both parties before taking action. Now a disjunct is something that, you know, gives us a comment about what we are saying. We must hear from both parties before taking any action, and we are saying this in all seriousness. So that's what a disjunct does. All right, so this is exactly what the phrase in a sentence is all about. We have actually been looking at phrases, and we have been able to look at the phrases from different angles. We have looked at what a phrase means. Then we have looked at various types of phrases. All right. We first looked at what is a phrase. We looked at characteristics of a phrase. Then we looked at types of phrases with copious examples. So this is where we draw the curtain in today's video. If you enjoyed this video, like the video and share it with your friends and relations. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please kindly subscribe and click on the bell icon so that whenever new videos are uploaded, you will receive a notification. Thank you for being part of today's video.